And there's actually two. There's one in Florida and one in PA, Pennsylvania. And I'm from Maryland, and I am driving 3 hours to go to this Pennsylvania Frank Frazetta Museum. I'm stoked. So I got most of the museum on record in this video. You should definitely still go support the museum and see what I didn't record, because I felt like it would be like a little rude to just record everything and then you just basically go to the museum by watching a video. You should definitely go there. It is something totally spectacular to behold these paintings and images that I've seen on paper and reproduced, in scanned copies. It's totally different to see them in person. And this comic, not everything's original. There's a few of the paintings that are just like high quality prints and lithographs, like the Death Dealer. That one's not actually there. That went to another one of the siblings who has it in their personal collection, I think, or they might have sold it, I don't remember. This is just Frank Frazetta's son, Frank Jr. His collection is in this museum, and that's really it. So this is really just a fourth of all of Frank's paintings and drawings. Just a quarter of it is in this museum. The other kids have kind of combined what they have left into the Florida Museum, and what they haven't sold, they still have there. Frank, I don't think, has sold anything. He sold very few things, is what he told me. And I wish I would have recorded my conversation with him. I wasn't planning on, getting a chance to talk to Frank Frazetta's son. Frank Jr. is huge. He was so nice, so gracious. He let me sit in Frank's chair, Frank's art chair, easel and chair, and how his studio was set up, kind of like roped off. You can see what it kind of looked like in his studio. He let me sit in his chair. It was incredible. And he didn't just let me sit in it for a little bit. I went there to sketch, so I brought my sketchbook and I started studying the master, and I got to sit in Frank's chair for like 2 hours. I was the only person there, basically. There were two other people there. They went on the tour. They were there for maybe an hour at most, and then they were gone. And I was there sketching, and then Frank just kind of came up to me and was like, "Hey, you want to sit in Dad's chair?" And I was like, "Hell yeah." And I was totally nervous sitting in this dude's chair. It was such a surreal moment. It was his friggin' chair that he painted all these masterpieces in. There was like some spilled red paint on one of the arms of the chairs. I thought like I ruined it. I was like, did I just bleed on this dude's chair or something? I had no idea. I was so nervous sitting in Frank Frazetta's chair. It's like sitting in Walt Disney's, sitting at Walt Disney's art desk. It was crazy. This is such a mind-blowing experience, one I'm going to remember forever. And it is a 3-hour drive from me, but I promise you I'm going to be going back again someday. I will definitely be going back again someday. Total round trip obviously was like 6 hours driving for me. It was, it's a little much for, I only get to spend 4 hours in the museum, but I'll definitely be going back. And here I recorded myself doing some sketching and studying because this is, ultimately an art channel. I wanted to include some of that here. So while I was there, I was really focusing on how to improve my art, and my art tends to be a lot of characters just standing there looking at you. I would say that a lot of it's almost like concept art, characters standing there, different, angles, but they aren't doing anything dynamic, and it's not telling a story. So that's what I wanted to focus on while studying Frank Frazetta's art in person, was the composition and dramatic lighting. Not sure if you can call it dramatic or dynamic. Both apply for sure. But that's really what I want to study. And I'm not much of a painter. I can paint digitally, but not with oils like Frank. As a matter of fact, I only have some watercolors, and I don't use them. I'm not very good at it, and it makes me nervous, honestly, painting with physical stuff. Because it's costly, I think, and there's no taking it back, there's no eraser, there's no undo. You can undo a little bit with paint, and you can then repaint, I guess, but I really need to take like an actual painting class and build up my confidence. That's a direction that I think I'm going to be taking the channel to, as I'm assuming I build up the confidence to do it. I am planning on it, so we'll see. Studying his figures, Frank's known for his dynamic anatomy and his amazing figure work. He's not hyper realistic, and we can all see that there's realism there. There's elements you can tell it's a figure. He's very close, but it's still stylized. So, and I was really focusing on, like I said, the lighting and how he tells a story in an image, particularly with the composition was what I was noticing. So I'm doing these little thumbnails up in the upper corner of the actual piece, and then I'm blowing up the character on the rest of the page and working on the lighting. And by the way, I think at this point I was sitting in Frank's chair sketching this. It was amazing to kind of be studying the master's work while sitting in the throne and doing this. It was awesome, just absolutely amazing. I can't thank Frank Jr. enough for being so gracious and letting me do this. Like I said, I was the only one in the museum. Don't go up to him and ask him, hey, can I sit in Frank's chair? Like, don't be rude. Let him offer it to you. The thing's behind ropes for a reason, but he's obviously very giving and very sharing with people who are big fans of the man Frank Frazetta, and he will let him offer it to you. Don't be rude, and don't say that you heard from Art Ridge Studio that I can just come up and sit in the chair. Don't do that. You didn't hear it from me. Yeah, it was so amazing. Still geeking out about it. I friggin' loved it. This was a great trip, and it's not a big museum, but it's crazy. It's all Frank's work, and it ranges from early work. There's even personal work, which I didn't take a video of because it's stuff that just belonged to the family, and it was of the family, portraits of family members and other personal stuff. And I was like, that's got to stay personal, and you can see all that when you go to the museum. This is one that I'm doing right here. This is one of my favorite pieces of Frank's. It was, his figures, especially his female figures, are just amazing. And, they portray power and sexuality, and they're just, the line work and the level of just detail, yet exaggerated anatomy. But I don't know, he just has such like a perfect blend of all these things. Make it just right. And he didn't like where this one was going, so we actually stopped. This isn't finished, but this is. And the big difference is that he took out the fire in the volcano. He wanted all the focus to be on this figure. That end, the reflection in the water changed. Now you kind of get this female silhouette there, holding up this great statue. Crazy. So, during this trip to the museum and leading up to it, I did a bunch of reading on Frank Frazetta. Not really a bunch. I had a bunch of books. I have 2 books, but they're huge on Frank Frazetta, and he is notoriously cheap. I guess he used very cheap material, and part of that is from him growing up during the Great Depression. Things cost money, and they were just very frugal. Um, and they made things stretch and they made things work. So Frank would chew on his brushes to get stray hair out of it and to shape it the way he wanted. He would bite out the bristles or the hair on the brush. He also apparently used Mickey Mouse watercolors to the day he died. That you can see his Mickey Mouse watercolor palette there in the museum. It is crazy. Crazy. So I just wanted to point that out. I thought it was really interesting because I spend all this time chasing down like really cool pencils and pens, and I'm looking for like the best equipment. And this dude was using like the cheapest shit and made the most amazing work. He was a true genius. I didn't realize he was a true genius. I thought he worked really hard. And it turns out no, he's a true genius. He spent all of his time he could playing baseball and being with his family. Family was first for him. He would stop painting to go hang out with his kids. His kids would come in and be like, "Hey, Pop, want to play some ball?" And they'd be like, "Oh, sorry, you're in the middle of something." He'd be like, "No." He would leave his painting and go play ball. He'd be like, "Nah, painting will be there when I get back."